Twist of Fate, Sunday the 13th of February 2022. Full update. Make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell to get notified for more updates like this. Mitali tells that Ranbir is not picking the call. Alia says we shall go there and stop the wedding. Tanu tells Rhea that she had told her many times that Pragya hates you, but you didn't listen, and asks her to see the proof. Rhea watches Pragya attending Ranbir and Prachi's marriage happily and showering flower petals on them. Ahbi comes there. Rhea asks Ahbi if Prachi and Pragya loves her, then what is hatred? She says mom is getting them married. Ahbi says I have sent Pragya there to stop the wedding and says you are misunderstanding her. Rhea says Prachi stole my love and my mom stole my dad. She says when nobody loves me then why shall I live? She runs from there and asks Ahbi not to follow her. She stands on the terrace railing. Ahbi comes and holds her hand, but she falls down on the ground. Ahbi shouts Rhea and gets shocked. Everyone comes there and gets shocked. Ahbi runs down. Pradeep records Ranbir and Prachi's marriage recording and send it to Tanu. Ahbi comes downstairs and lifts Rhea. He asks doctor to call the doctor. Pallavi calls the doctor. Tanu smirks and smiles, thinking two people united and two people will separate. This recording will break Ahbi and Pragya's last rope. Doctor comes there and asks Ahbi to calm down. Tanu provokes Ahbi against Pragya and says she never loved Rhea and loved just Prachi, shows the video to him. Ahbi gets shocked. Tanu says Pragya is showering flower petals on Ranbir and Prachi during their marriage. Ahbi goes from there. Tanu thinks it is my day. Pandit Ji asks Ranbir to fill sindoor in the bride's mang. Ranbir fills sindoor in Prachi's mang and looks at her happily. Prachi gets emotional. Pragya smiles. Song plays Subhanallah, he makes her wear Mangalsutra then. Pragya kisses Prachi. Pandit Ji asks them to take elders' blessings as the marriage is completed. Ahbi is coming there. Ranbir and Prachi hug Pragya. Ahbi comes there and recalls Rhea's words. He beats Ranbir. Pragya tries to stop him. Ahbi asks why did you do this with Rhea? Pragya says he doesn't love Rhea and says it is not his mistake. Ahbi beats him. Pragya asks him to stop and says he doesn't love Rhea. Ahbi asks her not to take Rhea's name and says you just love Prachi. He says I didn't agree to Tanu and Rhea, they were right and you was wrong. He says you just wanted to make your family and want to hurt my family. He says you was against Rhea, and me. He says I don't want your reflection to come on me or my family. Ranbir asks Ahbi to say what he wants to say. Ahbi pushes him. Prachi says Papa. Pragya says he is Prachi's husband. Ahbi says he was about to become Rhea's husband and blames Pragya for betraying him. He says you have come to make me cry and I will never forgive you. He gets Tanu's call and tells that he is coming. Pragya asks him to listen. Ahbi says I don't want to have any relation with you, and says thank God Tanu returned in my life, at least Rhea will get a better mother than you. Prachi and Ranbir looks on shocked. Pragya tries to stop him. Ahbi says I don't want to have any relation with you. He goes from there angrily. Prachi says Papa. She blames herself and says I was afraid about this. Pragya says I will make him understand and everything will be fine. She is about to run behind him and falls down. Ahbi reaches home and sees doctor bandaging her head. He gets emotional seeing Rhea. Song plays. Pragya asks Prachi to take care of herself. Prachi says I love you very much and hugs her. Pragya comes out and sits in the car. Tanu tells Ahbi that Pragya is calling him. Ahbi says I don't want to talk to her, I asked her to stop the marriage and she betrayed my trust. He says I won't let anyone come to Rhea. He says there is no place for the people who hurts Rhea. He says my daughter will stay with me as my family. Tanu acts sweet and asks him to go and change. Alia tells Tanu that they were saved, as Pragya was about to tell truth to Bai. Tanu says she can't tell as Ahbi is not picking her call. Pragya calls Ahbi. Tanu picks the call and says don't call him. Pragya asks her to give call to Ahbi. Tanu says I am his wife. Pragya says nobody accepts your marriage and asks her to give call to him. Tanu gives call to him, actually to Pradeep, who talks in Ahbi's voice. Pragya tells him that Ranbir never loved Rhea, as he always loved Prachi. She says Rhea asked Prachi to sacrifice her love. Ahbi asks her to shut up and tells that she is dead for him and he is happy with his new family. Pragya says I am coming there. Ahbi asks her not to come there, else he will get her shri done. Pragya says you can't do this with me, you had asked me not to leave you. Ahbi says you are inauspicious and that's why I have failed your car brakes and says he just wants to see her dead face. He asks her to die. Tanu takes the call and says Ahbi executed this plan on my sayings. My husband fulfilled my wish, you used to say right, that there is a power in Kumkum and Mangalsutra, now he will do what I want. Alia says happy death day Pragya, I will keep puja for your soul peace so that you don't trouble us even in our dreams. She says die Pragya die. The man talking to Pragya in Ahbi's voice is actually Pradeep. Pragya feels Ahbi betrayed her. Alia, Tanu and Pradeep smiles. Pragya's car falls off the valley. Alia, Tanu and Pradeep hear the car crash sound. Alia says she is dead and says congrats. Tanu says you are free Ahbi. A lady is shown standing in the river water and immersing her daughter's ashes. Panditji asks her to dip herself thrice. She takes a dip in the river. The lady tells that she has achieved so much for her daughter to keep her happy, but she lost everything. She asks God to either return her daughter or give her a reason to live. She takes the third dip in the river with the intention to drown, but then she finds Pragya and takes her out of the water. 2 years later in Australia, the same lady is shown who had rescued Pragya. A British guy asks her if her daughter has won the Australian Businessman Award. The lady says not yet, but I know my daughter, she will win. She asks Catherine to switch on the screen and says she has arrived just the doorbell rings. A guy says award function is still going on. The lady says I know my daughter and knows the way she rings the bell. Pragya comes there wearing a modern outfit and an award in her hand and smiles. Pragya coming home. The lady smiles. Pragya says I won. She says I am sorry, I couldn't wait for after party, as I want to be with you and celebrate this moment with you. She says sorry for killing her excitement and says I came here before the TV telecast. The lady congrats her. Catherine brings cake and asks her to cut. Pragya thanks her. Sushma says I know you will win, and tells that she is the first Indian woman in Australia to have won this award. Pragya cuts the cake and makes Sushma eat it. Sushma says we will go to Hilton Palace Hotel and all the world will celebrate with you. Pragya nods her head. A guest congrats her. Pragya thanks him. She goes behind Sushma. Sushma says sorry for not attending your award function, if I had not medical problem then I wouldn't come. She asks how did she feel. Pragya says I thought for the first time, that I exist, and people were praising me and shaking hands with me, as I am maker and not breaker. Sushma says you are talking about past. Pragya says I have proved myself in these 2 years and says you had said that if I get successful then you will let me go to India. Sushma gets asthma attack and goes. Pragya brings her spray and gives her. She asks why did you forget it here and there. Sushma says when you are around, I keep it and forget. Pragya says I tried to change myself and you had told that you will let me return to India, when I get successful. Sushma says yes, I had said as I wanted to make you strong and don't want you to be money-minded, but powerful, who have status and have their own brand. Pragya asks what do you think that if something is missing and tells that the startups are successful and she is the CEO of the reputed international company, and tells that this award which she got, is not given to any Australian. Sushma says I know you have moved on in life, but haven't forgotten to look in past. She says you said that you felt like maker and not like breaker. She says you have pain of the past more and the happiness of today less. She says you don't want to come out of your past, and asks her to live the moment. Pragya says I was murdered by my loved ones, how to tell you. She says how to tell you, if someone wants to kill you whom you loved a lot. She says I couldn't sleep in night and gets bad dreams. She says if I am dead then I will get mukti in India only. She says you have done many favors on me, I gave you the authority of my mother, and I have done whatever you wanted. She says I really want to return to India. Sushma says God snatched Priyanka from me and gave me you, says you are the reason of my life and says you can go to India. Pragya asks if it is necessary for me to go to party. Sushma says no. Pragya thanks her and goes. Later Sushma comes to Pragya and says I told you how you met me, but didn't tell you that I wanted to die. She says I asked God to either return my daughter or to give her reason for life. She says I wanted to die and someone else wants to kill you. She says I got angry when you told me that your Nanand, Sutan and husband wanted to kill you. She tells that her daughter Priyanka was being tortured by her husband Rohit. She says she married him against her wishes and Rohit took her to India. She says she avoided her phone calls. One day she melted and picked her call. She says Priyanka told me that her husband is having an affair with someone and he has been torturing her. She asks her to come and save her. Sushma rushes to India and goes to Priyanka's home, but finds her hanged and dead. She cries. FB ends. Sushma says even I was dead with Priyanka, I couldn't save her, but when I met you, I promised myself that I will not let anything happen to you. Pragya asks why you didn't tell me before Priyanka. Sushma says I guess, today is the right day, I got my daughter back in you, and you are the reason of my life and 2 lives are saved due to your stay here. Pragya hugs her. Sushma talks to Mark and asks him to apologize to the guests on their behalf. She asks him to make changes in the tickets. He says okay. She worries for Pragya and goes to her room. Prachi gets the dream in which Ahbi is scolding Pragya and gets up from her sleep. Ranbir reminds her that police couldn't find Pragya when her car was found in the water. They recall visiting the PS and the police officer tell them that Pragya is dead. Prachi says nothing can happen to her. Inspector asks Ranbir to take her, else he will arrest her. FB ends. Ranbir says if she would have been fine then would have met us by now. Prachi says no and hugs him. In the morning, Pragya wakes up. Sushma wishes her happy birthday and says today I came to know that today is your birthday, today is the day when Star is born and who gets everything in life. Pragya picks the cake and throws it, says today is not my birthday. Sushma says you are telling in sleep that birthday is coming and you shall celebrate. Pragya says today is his birthday. Sushma asks today is Ahbi's birthday. Pragya says yes. She says sorry for hurting her and says it used to be important day of my life, but not anymore. She says he might be celebrating with Tanu. Dadi wishes happy birthday to Ahbi and applies him tilak. Ahbi says let's see if others remember. Dadi says they might want to surprise you. Dadi says she wanted him to get God's blessings, but you woke up late. Ahbi asks why he made her wear shawl. Dadi says it looks good on you. Says if Pragya would have been here, then she would have decorated the house and make food for you. Ahbi asks why do you talk about her always? Dadi says I am alive in the hope that Pragya will return. Ahbi says you are talking about death on my birth. Dadi says I am sure that Pragya is alive and she will return. Ahbi goes out. Sushma informs Pragya that they are going to India, to take charge of the Australian company. She says maybe you will meet that guy. Pragya says it will be shocker for him, nothing can be more good gift than this, on his birthday. He will see the bad dreams now. She takes out his pic and says happy birthday Dokabaz, see you soon. Thanks for watching till the end, make sure you subscribe, and click on the notification bell, to get notified for more updates, like this, like, comment and share. Fearless.